How does a country with no ocean, almost no natural resources, and barely 9 million people end up richer than economic giants? That's the mystery behind Switzerland, a landlocked nation tucked between mountains that somehow ranks among the wealthiest and most prosperous societies on Earth. And here's the kicker. Switzerland's GDP per capita sits above $90,000, nearly double countries like France or the UK, and its quality of life consistently ranks in the global top 3. How is that even possible? Most countries rely on size, military power, or vast natural wealth to rise to the top, but Switzerland has none of that. Instead, it built a system so efficient and so counterintuitive that it defies almost every traditional rule of economic success. It's a place where wages are high, unemployment is low, public trust is almost unmatched, and the standard of living feels closer to a luxury benchmark than a national average. And in this video, you'll discover why. Because once you pull back the curtain on how Switzerland transformed itself into a global powerhouse, from political neutrality to innovation, banking mastery, and a system of governance most nations can only dream of, you'll realize the Swiss model isn't just impressive, it's almost unbelievable. Stay until the end, because each chapter reveals a piece of the puzzle behind one of the greatest economic success stories of modern history. Switzerland's political stability is one of the most underrated engines behind Switzerland's wealth, and it's a cornerstone of the Swiss economy. For centuries, the country embraced neutrality, not as a slogan, but as a long-term strategy. While much of Europe was pulled into devastating wars, Switzerland focused on building internal trust and strong institutions. This continuity let the country plan decades ahead without fear of destruction or regime swings. It's a big reason why Switzerland's GDP consistently ranks among high-income countries worldwide. What often surprises people is how deliberate this strategy has been. Neutrality didn't just protect borders, it preserved capital, talent, and confidence. Investors historically treated the Swiss model almost like a safe harbor during storms. Even during World War II, Switzerland maintained financial stability at a time when other economies collapsed. That kind of reliability attracts businesses that want predictability, not just profits. If anyone wants to study this deeply, the book The Swiss Labyrinth is a great entry point. Political calm also shapes day-to-day life. People feel secure launching companies, putting money in banks, or buying property because the rules rarely change overnight. Many entrepreneurs I've spoken with say the real Switzerland success story is how boring politics make everything else exciting. It's like having a solid foundation that lets you build taller and faster because you're not worried about the ground shaking. And this stability is exactly what paved the way for Switzerland's rise as a global banking powerhouse. But that's a story for the next chapter. Switzerland's banking sector is practically synonymous with Switzerland's wealth, but most people only know the surface. The Swiss economy turned banking into an art. Stability, expertise, and a culture built around trust. For decades, global elites parked their assets there because Swiss laws protected privacy and ensured consistency. Even after banking secrecy laws softened in the 2010s, Switzerland's GDP kept rising, proving the system wasn't just about secrecy, it was about competence. Wealth management became a refined science. What sets Switzerland apart is how banks behave more like long-term partners than transactional institutions. I once heard a CEO compare Swiss private bankers to financial physicians. They diagnose, monitor, and prescribe tailored strategies. They focus on capital preservation and generational planning, not quick wins. This patient approach attracts high-income countries' investors seeking stability. For anyone studying global finance, I recommend reading Swiss Money Secrets to understand how philosophy and practice blend in the Swiss model. But here's the twist. Despite modern transparency rules, the country didn't lose its edge. Instead, innovation kicked in, from fintech hubs in Zurich to global asset management giants expanding operations. Switzerland's success story in banking now lies in expertise, regulation, and reputation, not mystery. And as new industries rise, Switzerland uses this financial backbone to fuel high-value innovation, which leads us right into the next chapter. Switzerland's innovation engine is one of the quiet forces behind Switzerland wealth, and it goes beyond just watches or chocolate. The Swiss economy thrives on precision industries, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, medical devices, and advanced engineering. Companies like Roche and Novartis helped push Switzerland GDP to the top ranks of high-income countries, proving that small nations can dominate global markets when they focus on depth rather than size. It's a classic example of why Switzerland is rich despite limited natural resources. One thing that stands out is how Swiss firms obsess over quality. Instead of flooding markets, they produce fewer items with massive added value. A Swiss-made watch isn't expensive because it looks nice. It's expensive because it's built with microscopic precision that few countries can replicate. Years ago, I visited a precision manufacturing lab in Lausanne, and the engineer told me, "We don't compete on price, we compete on perfection." That mindset echoes throughout the Swiss model. This culture of innovation also benefits from an ecosystem that blends research, skilled labor, and strategic investment. Universities collaborate directly with industries, ensuring new ideas transform into profitable technologies. Venture capital flows into labs because the Swiss economy has low risks and high trust. And these high-value industries rely on a pipeline of elite talent, which leads directly into the next major factor behind the Switzerland success story, and that's education and human capital, the true foundation of the Switzerland's education system is one of the hidden engines powering Switzerland wealth, and it's often overlooked by people trying to understand the Swiss economy. What makes it unique is the blend of academic excellence with hands-on professional training. Nearly 60% of Swiss teenagers enter vocational programs where they learn real skills directly inside companies. This creates a pipeline of workers who are job-ready, boosting productivity and explaining in part why Switzerland's GDP consistently ranks among high-income countries. What's fascinating is how this system mirrors the Swiss model of precision and long-term planning. Instead of pushing everyone into universities, the country guides students towards becoming specialists, watchmakers, engineers, lab technicians, pharmaceutical experts. Years ago, when I toured a Swiss apprenticeship center, a manager told me, "We don't teach kids to pass tests, we teach them to produce value." And that mindset is exactly why Switzerland is rich. Every worker, no matter what the field, is trained to operate at a high level. The country also invests heavily in world-class universities like ETH Zurich, which competes with MIT and Stanford in global rankings. These schools collaborate with major industries, turning research into patents, startups, and technological breakthroughs. So for anyone wanting to dive deeper, the book The Swiss Apprenticeship Model is a great resource. This focus on human capital sets up the next major factor behind the Switzerland success story, and that's its strategic location and trade network. Switzerland's geography plays a bigger role in Switzerland's wealth than most people realize. Nestled right in the heart of Europe, the Swiss economy benefits from direct access to major markets like Germany, France, and Italy. Even without being part of the EU, Switzerland negotiated over 120 bilateral agreements that guarantee smooth trade. This unique setup helps sustain the Switzerland GDP and reinforces its position among high-income countries. It's a masterclass in turning geography into strategy. Infrastructure is another huge asset in the Swiss model. The country's transportation system, high-speed rail, perfectly maintained highways, and efficient logistics hubs allow goods to move with almost no friction. I once heard a logistics executive say, "If you want something to arrive on time, give it to the Swiss." These systems make it easy for high-value industries to export globally, strengthening why Switzerland is rich today. For anyone studying comparative logistics, looking into Switzerland's Gotthard Base Tunnel is a great place to start. But it's not just about moving goods, it's about connecting markets. Switzerland became a commercial bridge where companies used the country as a base for European and global operations. This combination of access, stability, and efficiency attracts foreign investment and fuels the Switzerland success story even further. And behind all these strategic advantages lies something even more powerful, a political system designed for long-term trust, which is exactly what the next chapter dives into. Switzerland's political system is unlike anything else in the world, and it's a major reason behind Switzerland's wealth and the durability of the Swiss economy. Direct democracy allows citizens to vote on everything, from tax reforms to local construction projects. This constant participation creates policies that people genuinely support, reducing political polarization and boosting trust. When a nation consistently ranks among high-income countries, it's rarely by accident. Good governance is usually the invisible hand behind the numbers. Another pillar is the country's extremely low corruption. Switzerland's GDP is high, not because money flows through risky shortcuts, but because institutions protect public resources with almost obsessive discipline. A Swiss official once told me, half joking, "Here, if a politician misuses public money, it becomes national news for a decade." That level of accountability strengthens the entire Swiss model, from banking to innovation. If someone wants to explore this deeply, Why Switzerland by Jonathan Steinberg is an excellent recommendation. This system also creates predictable conditions for business. Entrepreneurs know that laws won't shift suddenly, and investors trust that public decisions are deeply debated. That stability is one of the core reasons why Switzerland is rich and continues writing its Switzerland success story. And when you combine political trust, innovation, human capital, and strategic geography, you end up with a global powerhouse that many nations try to imitate, but few can match. If you've made it this far, you now understand why Switzerland isn't just rich, it's a blueprint for what long-term prosperity actually looks like. A small, landlocked country turned itself into a global powerhouse through stability, precision, innovation, and a political system that most nations would struggle to replicate. But the real question now is, what can you take from this? Which of these principles, education, governance, innovation, or neutrality, makes you rethink how nations should build their future? Think about your own country for a moment. What's missing? Is it trust in institutions, a stronger focus on talent, better long-term planning, more investment in high-value industries? Switzerland shows that prosperity isn't an accident, it's engineered. I'd love to know which chapter surprised you the most. Was it the political system, the financial sector, or the strategy behind innovation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective adds value to the entire community. And if you want to keep learning about global power, economics, and how nations rise and fall, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next breakdown.